September the 3rd. Where were you on September the 3rd? Where were you when you first heard the news? Concord has fallen.
Brother, I was, where the fuck was I? I was, I think I just downloaded Zaneless Zone Zero, and I was buying me my waifus. Well, not like with money, it has like an in-game currency. I got two of the waifus I wanted. And I believe it was then when I got the text from my brother being like, "Oh hey, Concord went under," and man, it made my day, like my day was already going good with the waifus, but that information just made my day go from good to better, just slightly better. So yeah, that's where I was.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have witnessed with our very own eyes the most important event in the video game industry in decades.
Oh,
Today, September the
God.
3rd, Sony has announced that its latest title, Concord, will be discontinued and servers will be shut down September the 6th. Mainstream media outlets defending Concord have destroyed their credibility
Yep.
and revealed a glaring flaw in the game industry.
And again, it revealed a flaw that everyone knew, right? It's that game journalists don't work in, the they don't work for the consumer. They don't care for you, the gamer, right? Like in fact, they are told to stay as far away from you, the gamer, the consumer, as humanly possible. They are told to block you, to mute you, to do all that. Like they have self radicalized themselves into believing that the bigots are at the door and that you, the person who slaves who works for a living in the wage cage and slave just to scrounge up enough money to purchase a game and to put money aside for entertainment, they think you are the bad guy. And they will gladly promote worse products to you because they don't want to get blacklisted, right? They want the early access to games because, well, that they're still giving information. But yeah, and people are figuring this out. Something that we knew in since Gamergate in 2015, 2016. But at the time, gaming was, it was a niche, and games journalism was a niche of a niche, but they were an industry, right?
How can you trust a company who tells you the sky is not blue? We can no longer trust those major companies. The fall of Concord is not cause for celebration. We cannot afford to devolve into a culture that dances on the graves of those who tried and failed. But there is cause for celebration. To all my fellow gamers out there who let your voices be heard in comment sections and forums, I am proud of you.
Oh,
I beseech
God.
you, revel not in the failure of others. The road to a better tomorrow cannot be traveled by tearing each other down, but by helping each other up when we stumble. To the content creators out there who made strong the voice of your people, your fellow gamers, I am proud of you. To those with true journalistic integrity who researched and brought to light the unacceptable, grotesque behavior of those who would masquerade as our game developers, I am proud of you.
Mm-mm-mm.
Sony has become a tyrant, a dragon of wealth at all costs.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that claim to speak for the gaming community. Like, again, these are words used to lump people in groups and speak on their behalf. And it is very toxic. Like, no matter where it happens, be weary of these types of people, right? Because they are the small fringe minority, not you. But because they're part of the industry, and because they have their small fringe group of ideological idiots that are the loudest. They'll make you think, oh, you're the weird one, you're the freak. And again, say what you want about Sony, like, they do listen. Now, will they care? That's another situation, right? Like, again, with the Helldivers situation. I mean, those 190 some companies still can't play the game for some reason. But at least they're not forcing PC players to sign on to their goofy PSN account, sign up for a goofy ass PSN account, right? But no, like, instead of Sony publishing this game, they're like, no, we're gonna buy out the fucking company of, what was it, Firewatch, Fire something. And unfortunately, that was a massive blunder. A blunder that I expected, but sometimes for the people in the back, you gotta say this right. They're not in your interest. Like, they're not in the interest of the consumer. They're in the interest of loud ideologues online. Like, the best situation is if you just shut the fuck up and purchase the product. They adopt an ideology as a shield, and they suck up government money, suck up investor money. Like, this is the perfect situation for these companies. And unfortunately, in this situation, the consumer loses all the time. Like, when companies compete, the consumer wins. When companies and the government works hand in hand, the customer loses, the person loses, the individual loses. And it's odd that, you know, people on one hand understand this, but depending on where and the ideological structure you're looking, you know, you have leftists that are against multi-billion-dollar companies until they just say the things they want to hear. Then for some reason it's like the switch flips and they shut the fuck up all of a suddenly. But yeah, or you have conservatives that are all for, you know, free speech and people's rights until it comes to porn. Then they become some of the most, or they become worse than the leftists when it comes to irrationality, because they're like, oh no, when it comes to porn, yes, give them all your information, give the government all your information, give the company like the fucking last hemorrhoid inspection, give them all your information, and that company's totally not going to get hacked, you know. Like, it doesn't matter where you look. Like, for some reason, and this is an American thing, Americans will hold completely contradictory beliefs, because if you live in a wealthy country, you can literally afford to be fucking stupid. Like, and as an American, so you gotta point this out, like, we can afford to be fucking idiots here in America.
All the gamers out there who stood their ground and let their voices be heard, who united from all around the world, they became a powerful spear. All the content creators out there who brought to light the truth of the situation as it unfolded day to day, they became the blade of the spear that pierced the dragon's heart. There is a philosophy that exists in the professional world, something I've learned working in industry, from watching, from listening to the world around me. People love nothing more than watching a tyrant fall.
Oh, God. And again, this is not a position people want to be in. But if you force me to be the asshole, and now I'm being the asshole, I'm going to be the asshole, and God damn it, I'm going to love it. I'm going to be all for it. I'm going to be like, hey, you know, I don't want to be here, but since we're here, fuck you. Right? Because this is how people act in reality. Like, if you take away the like, if you take the terminally online individuals out the room, you'll see how people act in real life. And this is, I believe, how people, and you know, again, this isn't a good thing, you know, but people aren't Jesus fucking Christ. And now, if you put me in a position where I have to be the conscientious consumer and be like, well, I guess I'm not buying this product based off a small criteria, that I do not need to explain because it's my fucking money and I'll spend it however way I want. Right? If you put me in that position, you know, I mean, sorry, not sorry.
For years, talented, skilled, and deserving artists and developers have been discriminated against. Instead of game companies hiring people for their ability or qualifications, they hire based on the color of someone's skin, their sexual identity, and their political views. For years, the video game industry has.
And it's odd that the same people that are against these things, like, they're okay with it if it's their ideology doing it. Like, they completely just shut the fuck up. If it's their ideology doing it, like, you know, you can just take a stance and keep it, you know, and apply it wherever it is, even if your ideology is doing it, but for some reason that's not what happens. So, you know, if your company does that, you deserve to fail, and you can be all for Black Lives Matter, you can be all Christian oriented or whatever, I don't care. You deserve to fail. And hey, I'll be that guy clapping when you do. I will be on that end zone, being like, hell yeah, you just got fucked, pussy. Fucking dumb pussy.
Bent further and further toward appeasing an extremist radicalized cult raised entirely in an isolated bubble of hyperreality on the internet. The game industry has bent further and further, being infested by people who do not care about making a good product, who do not understand what a good game is, and who do not care about what really matters. The gamers. Diversity, inclusivity, equity. I've said it before and I will say it again. Those things matter. They're important. But the people who are pushing those concepts into the public space lack the maturity, self-awareness, and understanding of social responsibility to do it correctly. These radical...
Yeah, again, they just want to, you know, race swap, gender swap, you know, put in the token in there, check boxes. And if you make, if you're supposed to, if you make it like, oh, the more diversity, the higher the score, like at the end of the day, the product stops mattering. What matters is, if you gamify art, like, and you have talented, like, people that aren't talented, right? Or people that hire their friends off ideological nepotism, you will just get, like, the product absolutely will suffer as a base. Like, if you hire based on anything but merit, merit suffers, right? And this is what I believe. You know, if you hire again based off small, fringe, idiotic ideological criteria, well then you won't get a better product for this, right? Because you're not hiring off, oh, what do you add to the product? What can we do with the product? You're hiring off ideological nepotism, right? And the same people that are against, like, hiring off familial nepotism, will just do so off ideological nepotism. And because it's their ideology, they're okay with it for some reason. And once people start figuring this out, I mean, again, you might be able to, you know, shock some people into submission, right? But those people you shock into submission will vote against you. And this is what you see happening in the game industry. Like, gamers are voting against corporations, they're voting against companies, and they're voting with their wallets, right? You know, they're playing Black Myth Wukong. They were playing Helldivers when it wasn't at odds. They're playing Stellar Blade, right? Yeah, people are voting, and they're doing this without your consent, without you looming over them like a tyrant. And because this is happening, you know, you get games like Concord failing, right? You get games like Star Wars Outlaws, which is a failure, but it's Disney, so whatever. It's going to keep existing. You get just bad products going down, and they might have the money getting pumped in them to have this happen, but you know, I'm gonna put my money towards the things and towards the entertainment I want.
Extremists are so focused on their own egos, they do not realize the damage they have caused to our culture.
Yeah, the gaming culture as a whole. And again, diversity is something that happens naturally. Like, I watched the Star Trek like in 1970s, like back in the 1970s. Well, I wasn't alive in the 19. I watched 1970s Star Trek. It had diversity, right? But if you believe in this ideological definition of diversity, which is effectively like the Holy fucking Spirit, right? Only, there is no moral end game, there is no ideological end game, it's just moralization just for moralization's sake. Well, then, okay, you're going to believe that like the diversity just did not happen to like the early 2016, 2017, right? And everyone will disagree with you, but again, because you surround yourselves with immature individuals that are on this ideological crusade and they're not very intelligent, you'll keep believing this, and eventually people will just move past you, the industry will move past you, your consumer will move past you and move to things that they want.
Never before in the past decades has there been a greater hatred, fear, and resentment towards minority groups which they think they are empowering. Yeah. Instead, they are framing marginalized groups as villains and painting targets on their backs. And this has happened because of the incompetent implementation of supposed diversity in media.
Well, I think people will understand diversity, inclusion, and equity done the correct way, like not the corporate pandering, gamifying way. Like Black Myth Wukong is a perfect example of diversity done the right way. Zaneless Zone Zero, again, a perfect example of diversity done the right way. But it is a shame that when people see any level of diversity in games, they'll in new games, like they're going to assume DEI until proven otherwise.
We cannot afford to go back to a time when hatred and fear was allowed to rule our hearts and minds. No more. To you radicalized extremists, receiving millions of dollars to produce products for stroking your own egos instead of serving the gamers, I say to you, no more. To you tyrants who fund this radicalized movement, who focus on pandering instead of creating something of value, I say to you, no more. To you developers who would dare to call my fellow gamers, my people, talentless freaks, I say to you, no more. Rejoice. Celebrate, my fellow gamers, for today you have made history. Today, we tear down a tyrant.
Oh, God.
Let this be a warning to all the AAA development studios and publishers out there. The balance of power has shifted. There is no amount of money you can pour into marketing to hide the flaws of a product created by the wrong people with the wrong intentions. The balance of power has shifted in a way that you cannot control. Your audience has a voice. They have power, and they are your equals. September the 3rd. Remember this. Let it be heard. All across the world, today is the day we took back the video game industry.
Hell yeah,
20 developers.
Brother. And again, this, like, they'll go after you, they'll go after your friends, they'll go after your parents. Like, they, without even complete fucking strangers that don't even know you, that don't have your interests at heart, will go after people based off this fringe, tiny thing. It's the thing that they do in the confines of their own home, and that's play video games. Like, this is the ideological crusade that they're on, right? I think my mother, they go against my mother, they go against my brother, they go against my friends, and they don't know them. They go after me, they go against me. Like, they don't fucking know me, and honestly, I don't want to know these individuals, right? Because hate does not create, and these are individuals that they hate themselves, they hate where they come from, they hate America, right? But in hate doesn't, and there's a lot of, criticism you can have against these things, but again, hate does not create, and there has never been a single situation in human history where the hate has, right? And, unity creates, but hate does not.
There are publishers out there who would dare to call my fellow gamers my people, talentless freaks. Do this at your own peril, because I will not stand idly by and let you demean my people. Lastly, to Sony, you have earned some respect by issuing full refunds to all the paying customers of Concord. This is the best course of action you could have taken.
50 of them.
Were I to give you a review on your performance in this situation, I would say 7 out of 10.
Got him. No, I would give him like a 2. Look, you don't get to gloat about doing what you are supposed to do to begin with, and that's have the interest of the consumer at heart. Like, you don't get an award for that. Like, you don't get praise for doing what you, the company, is meant to do to begin with, right? So, yeah, I mean, I'd give them a 2.
You want a career in
Oh my
cybersecurity?
God.
We can help you get there. Our stackable cybersecurity.
But yeah, and I just came across that video, and good video, good video, good channel. Give them a watch. But yeah, that pretty much sums up the whole situation. Fairly good. I give this video a 10 out of 10, an 11 out of 10. Fuck it, a 12 out of 10. But that's all I gotta say about this.